How do you go from picking up trash in an amusement park earning about $5 an hour to becoming $100 million business owner? Now, this short clip is an excerpt from the full conversation, which you can find at productiveinsights.com/membership. Speaking of which, this video is brought to you by the Productive Insights membership program. And I want to thank the Productive Insights members because they make it possible for us to bring this free content to you on YouTube. Thanks for watching. And here's Neil Patel. You started cleaning toilets in an amusement park. So talk to our viewers about that. And at one point, if I'm not mistaken, you were $1 million in debt. So let's talk about the really difficult side of business. You're doing $100 million a year now, but that's not how it always was. And I want people to hear and understand that it doesn't happen overnight. So can you talk to us a bit about that?
I'm 38. That was when I was 15 and a half. I was able to get my first job, and it was from minimum wage. At that time, it was $5.75 an hour. Technically, they were able to pay me a little bit under minimum wage. I don't know why, maybe because I wasn't 16. And it was cleaning restrooms and picking up trash at a theme park. And I love cleaning the restrooms because when I clean the restrooms, they either paid me extra 25 cents or 50 cents an hour to clean the toilets. It was a really messy job because it's a theme park, you can imagine. And a theme park with roller coasters and big kid roller coasters, not the little kids. So I did it to make more money. I wanted a better life. So you do whatever for the cash. And eventually I tried starting some businesses. My first one was a job board, failed miserably. Eventually I tried to create a cloud computing company before that was really popular, before there's Amazon Web Services. From my understanding, maybe I'm getting my timing off, but I'm pretty sure before AWS was big, we were trying to do cloud computing and it didn't work out and burned $1 million of borrowed money and eventually had to pay it back. So it's life.
How'd you get yourself out of that hole?
I was doing consulting at the same time and helping people grow their traffic on the internet. That helped a lot.
So that brings up another question, and this is about scaling. I have found that there's a lot of talk about blitz scaling and scaling, but before you scale, you have to do unscalable stuff. Would you agree or you don't agree, and why or why not?
Depends on the business. If I'm trying to start a software company from day one, and it's a Me Too software company. I'm creating a CRM, let's say, competing with Salesforce and HubSpot, and the list goes on and on. Zoho, Sugar CRM. You may not need to do as much manual stuff because you're in an older industry that's established, that already has a lot of the systems and processes built. So you may not have to worry too much about scalability because you can get that early on. On the flip side, if you're doing something new, a lot of times you're going to have to grind it out and things aren't as scalable as they should be.
So when you started, did you start off with scalability in mind, or did you just start off with wanting to solve
crap? When I started off by just thinking about making money, and that was it. There was no like, oh, I need to make it scalable. Oh, I need to make it super efficient, and so my margins, my profit. I'm just like, how much revenue can I make, and how much of that drops to the bottom line and goes in my pocket? That was it. When you're starting off, it's for most people, it's much more basic.
Yeah, and in your conversation with Matt Gray, I noticed you said one of your pet peeves is people don't make revenue fast enough and they don't ship fast enough. They sort of sit in analysis for a long time. And I have to confess, I was guilty of this, and I'm still sometimes guilty of it. How do you bring yourself to get to done and not get caught up in the whole perfection thing?
That's a tough one. And I don't know the honest answer for that. And here's why I'll say that. When you're going out there and just trying to get things done, you just have to have that mentality that it's okay not to be perfect and just ship stuff and get feedback. I don't know the real secret or solution. I think it's more mentality than anything else. Not putting a rocket into space. If it falls, there's not that many repercussions. For rocket into space, sure, people could die. But when you're talking about building a software company and you have no paying customers, who cares? Just get it out there and get feedback. What do you have to lose? And I think that's where people make the mistake because they overanalyze. They genuinely just overanalyze, and I don't know why, instead of just trying to get it out there. Again, no secret, not rocket science. If it's not perfect, you got it out there, you adapt, you learn from your mistakes. If it's great, cool, lucky you, because most people don't experience that right away, right? Like, it's more of a mental thing. And can you get over it?
I really like how honest and open you're being in this conversation, so thank you. Something you also said was one of your biggest mistakes was not being focused enough when you were younger, and you are more focused now.
Oh, yeah.
In episode 147, I spoke to Noah Kagan about this as well. And he said, being able to say no is an important skill. How do you say no? And more importantly, what things do you say yes to? What sort of filters do you have in business when picking projects?
I say no to most things and I only say yes to my main business, and that's it. So I was at a dinner one time and this guy does not remember. There was a guy named Brian Lee there. Brian Lee created Shoe Dazzle with Kim Kardashian, LegalZoom, and Honest Company, and a few other companies. Honest Companies with Jessica Alba.
That's right.
Brian taught me something and I didn't understand it back then. And I took the advice for granted. And when I say I took it for granted, I was like, oh yeah, I learned this great piece of advice. I'm going to use it. And I didn't take it from granted from a mental note standpoint, but like I did not use it. And I was super arrogant. I was like, oh, I'm good. I know what I'm doing. But Brian once said, if your company is growing at a nice pace, just have laser focus and keep doing what you're doing. The moment your growth slows down, start looking at other things to do to speed it up. So NP Digital, all right, you're based in Australia, right? We have Australia division. I don't know if you knew that. We have NP Digital in Australia as well.
I do, because I'm a partner.
There you go. And Dan ends up running it.
That's right.
So, and we have a lot of different divisions. The economy is bad. I'm not here to tell you we're booming when a lot of people in marketing are struggling. I know most of the competitors and I know a lot of their numbers because they share. Did you know our international, when you look at year-to-date numbers and you compare them year over year, has grown roughly 74%?
Wow.
In this type of economy. So what are we doing to create more growth? We started the year with Australia, UK, Brazil, India, Canada. US would make it 6. We also had Germany, but the Germany guy didn't work out and he didn't want to do really any work. We both decided to part ways. Not trying to talk trash, it was just the reality of it. Yeah. So he just wanted something else in life. So those are the 5 regions we're in. Now we're in roughly May 19th, May 20th. I don't know, your time zone is May 20th while recording this. So you got those 5 regions, 6 if you include the United States. We've already added Italy, Spain, Singapore, Mexico, Colombia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Japan. We're about to add France. So now you're looking at 9 regions that we've popped up in roughly 5 months.
Wow.
Because we're seeing growth. And the growth isn't coming from these new 9 that we've popped up. It's coming from the existing 5. And we're like, the revenue really is international, which we knew, but we needed to see the data because it's expensive to spend all this money to expand overseas. It costs millions of dollars per region. Our original projections were $1 million per region, but that's not the case, sadly. It's much more. And by the end of this year, including the United States, we'll probably be somewhere around 23 to 25 regions that will be in countries. When I say regions, like we're pushing hard for future growth and international expansion.
So what's driving this growth? How are you having this success when the rest of the market is shrinking?
We're not just focused on the US. If you're established business, let's give you a hypothetical right here. If someone's established business, you make over $100 million a year in a market like the United States. When you have a bad market, most likely your numbers are going to start getting hurt. Your growth is going to slow down. Your numbers are going to start going backwards. But on the flip side, if you're in a new market, let's say you just expand to the United Kingdom, which has a good GDP, and you're at $0 in revenue, good market, bad market, doesn't matter. You're going to close something. You should be. So you're going to be better off than where you were before. And in a good market, you'll close more. In a bad market, you'll close, but it'll be slower. And that's why we're growing still at a decent clip, is because we're adding a ton internationally. We're not seeing the revenue from all these international regions yet because we've been adding so many. I think not next year, 2025 will be our year. I'm superstitious. I just knocked on wood. But
okay, let's talk about revenue versus profit. When I put on my CPA or my MBA hat, and I can tell you that if you're doing, and I'm not talking about you, I'm saying if a business is doing 10 million, 100 million, whatever a year, but if they're spending 11 million or 111 million to make that revenue, you're worse off than the guy on the side of the street in the cardboard box, right? Because you're broke.
In theory, yes, unless your company's valued on revenue, which some are, like a lot of SaaS are, but the public markets now want profit and investors now want profit. Unless you're growing like 40, 50% year over year, they're a little flexible. But if you don't have those growth numbers, which most people don't, they want profit. And then the other problem that's changed is before they were okay with no profit if you have 40, 50% growth. But if you keep having 40, 50% growth and your losses just keep compounding each year faster than your growth, there's a problem, right?
Exactly.
So
that's my point.
I'm a Gujarati, and you're familiar with my kind. And we were taught at a young age that a business is someone that makes profit, not
Right,
revenue. Revenue is
right.
an irrelevant number.
So let's talk about that. I want to just drill down to that. How do you ensure profitability? Because I'm sick and tired of hearing people talking about revenue numbers. Revenue is not important and it doesn't impress me. What impresses me is profit. And I know you're profitable, but my question is, how do you focus on profitable revenue, as it were? And as importantly, if not more importantly, how do you ensure cash flow is always healthy?
Good financial team. They do unit economics and they make sure everything we do is profitable, and good leadership. See, my CEO was the president of iProspect, which is an agency, global agency. He managed, I don't know how many thousands of people, but a lot. And he worked at a publicly traded company, and was one of their best divisions. So he had to run things based on a quarterly basis. Now, we don't run things on a quarterly basis, but you got to optimize for revenue and profit and things like that. So that's important. The other one to think about for us is, in this economy, our profit is going down drastically. Not because we can't maintain it and grow it. It's going down because we're investing so heavily internationally. And technically, that's not considered profit when you look at accounting rules. We still have great profit, but we're taking the cash flow. We're looking at the profit, we're paying taxes on it, and then we're reinvesting it for international growth.